Hi guys, I am John Carrick, author of Legacy of a Mad Scientist and The Legend of Ashley Fox. Today we are looking at Marvel Comics Conan the Barbarian 103. On the cover here it says Night of the Vampire. Okay, this looks a lot like Xerxes, doesn't it? From 300. But inside it says Bride of the Vampire, and I suspect that Roy Thomas and John Buscema, or John Buscema, I don't know how to say it, and I heard some fucking cunt say John Buscema, and it sounds gay. I'm never going to say that again. But that's pretty appropriate for this episode, this issue, because this is called Bride of the Vampire, and I suspect that Roy Thomas and his artist friends, John and Ernie, were having a laugh in continuation of the last one, and the man crabs. I don't know how Bellet died. The fact that Bellet's dead is the only thing that gives this issue any gravitas whatsoever. Otherwise, this is very cartoony. Ernie Chan's art, this combination of John Buscema and Ernie Chan, I think Gary Kopweiss studied how to draw from them because his art came out looking a lot like this. So, what's happening? Obviously, the tall, gay vampire in a pink dress. He's a male. He's black. This is in Africa. He's the head of a black faux vampire tribe. He never turned any of the members of his tribe. He just made them look like him. He cropped their ears, filed their teeth, and only let them hunt at night. But he never made any of them vampire. He said they weren't strong enough. In a minute, we're going to get the backstory about how he became a vampire. But that's after he carries Conan into this little chamber and sends all his. Now here's a messed up thing. He sends all his servants out to do what they will with the members of Conan's tribe, the Bumulas, something like that, and Boomlus, and so they lock them in a cell. They don't immediately feast on them as vampires would, because that's too much even for Marvel Comics. There's a lot of violence in this that is over the line. There was some in the last one. I heard Shane talking to someone yesterday or the day before. I think it was on that John Malin membership stream where they were talking about comics, but it might not have been that. It might have been a CG stream where they were talking about no, it couldn't have been because Ethan was there. And they were talking about cutting off characters' heads and decapitating them and the violence that Marvel would let and DC would let you do, but they would also hide it from the audience. They wouldn't let them see quite what happens. And that happened in the last one, and that happens here. That happened in the one with Bellet too. There was a guy in the one with Bellet who they said they'd cut off his arm and his head, and you could only see one arm, his torso, and his legs. So and you could only see them because it was blocked by other characters standing in the panel. So here, they lock them up. They don't feast on them. This guy's got Conan laying on an altar because it's not wide enough to be a bed. And he is going to suck his blood and turn him into a vampire. And Conan says, I don't think so. And they start fighting. And immediately this vampire starts negotiating and complimenting Conan. And that's the only reason Conan doesn't continue attacking him. Or that's the reason we have to that's the reason we have to give to Conan for not attacking, because he doesn't. He chooses not to. Remember, the main character's actions are at the whim of the author. So if the author wants to give the bad guy time to do a James Bond monologue and explain how we got here in order to catch the audience up, then that's what we're going to do. And Conan's going to listen to it. So there's this tall black guy in a pink dress who wants to turn Conan into a vampire and make him his immortal partner. And he explains how, now this is right out of Solomon Kane too. Solomon Kane fights these guys, especially these winged vampires. He doesn't have quite this sort of relationship with them. This, what is this, Greenwich Village, London, Lower West Side London relationship. London, New York, Lower West Side New York relationship. This is creepy. But Solomon Kane did fight these guys in Africa, and that's how he got like some staff, and he had one of the main characters in his comics was like an African shaman. Solomon Kane spent a lot of time down there subduing savages. Oh, this one is this is for Roman soldiers, not for army men. It's a little more expensive, $250. Last ones were $175 for the Green Army men. So this guy's explaining how he fought this guy and killed him, this winged monster. You only saw the bat wings for a second. I'm flipping back over the ads again. Look at all these ads. So you only see the bat wings up against his shield, and then he pins it down and spears it. And as soon as he does, it loses its bat wings and becomes human again, although it has this sort of grotesque shape and whatever, face. And then, no, that's not what happens. He becomes this over time. He doesn't grow bat wings, which is weird, but because he was clawed and bit so many times in their fight, he becomes super strong and he becomes a vampire, and there's no one he can share it with, but he eventually kills so many guys that he gets an army of villagers following him, and that he knows with Conan's help they could take over and run the whole of Africa. And Conan's thinking about it, apparently. There's some weird writing in this, too. I don't know if Roy Thomas was doing drugs. I don't know if he was drinking a lot, if he was having trouble in his marriage or in his romantic relationships. I don't know. But this is weird. This is a weird comic. Conan says, no, I'm not going to do it. This guy chokes him out with some jujitsu move and throws him in a cave and tells him to think about it. Now, in the cave is the bride of the vampire. It's not going to be Conan. So it's really the night of the Marvel, I'm guessing Marvel changed the cover after the splash page had gone to print or had been inked and colored or whatever. So Conan is now in here with this woman who is the actual bride of the vampire. And she explains that she's the last of the brides and that he had kidnapped them, and a lot of the people in his tribe are his children, and he doesn't convert any of them to vampirism. He just files their teeth and makes them drink blood. They're like fake vampires. They're posers. So this guy, this real vampire, has a tribe full of posers that go out and do his bidding. Conan tries to move the rock and he can't do it. So we get this passage of time, and they come back and put Conan in chains and bring him back out to see this guy who's basically asking him, have you had enough? Are you ready to be my servant now? And Conan argues with him again, but then he realizes that he has to negotiate for the lives of his men, because they're going to come out and murder the members of his mercenary army, his black villager mercenary army. They're going to come out there and murder them one at a time, unless he agrees to be this guy's, unless King Leonidas agrees to be Xerxes' partner. And the vampires, so they kill this guy and they eat him, and it's gross, but they don't show it. So this is what I was talking about, the violence. Also, this is also a way to do cannibal blacks without doing cannibal blacks. You make them vampires. But then they mix in. So now we're affronted by this But what Roy Thomas is really saying is that Cannibal Blacks be gay, yo. That's what he's really doing here. And from that perspective, you know, okay, I'll laugh. I'll let it slide, I suppose. It's a story. It's just a story, man. They're just jokes, man. Is this racism? Is this institutional? Is this the institutional racism that people have complained about? I don't know. P. Diddy's guilty, I'll tell you that much. So, what is happening? Conan agrees that he will be this dude's servant only if he releases the soldiers. They don't try and fight the vampire people. They're just people. They're not real vampires. They could be killed with their spears, and they let them take their spears. So Conan is kind of disappointed in them, and he knows that this guy who wanted to be the boss anyhow isn't going to come back to rescue him, because with him out of the way, he gets to be king. So he's remembering Bellet, and this is bullshit. And he says, okay, well, one more thing. You got to release the girl too, because this is fake and gay, and I don't want to be a part of it, and you can't keep her as a slave if you're going to have me. She, however, and then, now to top it off, this guy, the bad guy, the man in pink, Xerxes, says, she means nothing to me. Fine, no problem. I don't care about her. But she loves him, right? So this is like the other woman who was going to give herself to Conan after he'd killed the chief of her tribe. This is the opposite of that. This woman has been this guy's slave for 50 years, giving him children, and now he's going to throw her out. He's not even going to kill her. He's just going to throw her out. And she stabs him in the back with a spear. And now this is stuck in his spinal cord. And it doesn't hurt him. And apparently iron, I don't know what kind of metal they had in Africa. I don't remember much about mining in Africa. I don't know if they had bronze or tin or iron. Maybe these are spears from the Boer or from the Frank. It doesn't really matter. The French were in the Congo, as they say. Doesn't penetrate to his heart, and it doesn't kill him. And Conan is disappointed in these people, and he smacks her. Conan blasts him with the chains. Actually, Conan flees and is blasting the exterior guards with the chains like a flail. He just ran away. Conan just like, I'm out. These people got to sort out their own business. That's their business. You don't want none of it. And so, sorry for bumping the stand here. So he attacks the vampire-esque, the non-vampire vampires. 4 pages of ads here. And then climbs a cliff. Now we know the sun is coming up. And I'm a little disappointed that they didn't do that, because they made us think that he was going to climb the cliff, and then they're talking smack about the sun coming up and that they'll be weak. And he says, I don't care. They'll kill whoever first. And Conan keeps climbing, and then his tribesmen return because they realize it's shady to leave him there and that they couldn't live with themselves. And Conan keeps climbing the cliff with this guy climbing after him with a spear in his back. So, and now they're talking about the sun is going to be coming up soon. Obviously, that's the moon. Oh, sliding off the page. Sorry. Hope you guys can see all this. Again, you can see what's going on. Conan's villagers, his mercenary blacks, have returned, and they don't want to be victims of these vampires anymore, these non-vampire vampires. Conan keeps climbing because it's all he can do, but he gets caught. And there's a line, like this is a weird line. There's a line right here where Conan says he's glad this guy doesn't call him out on his oath. And there's a line back here too where Conan says, where he says, you gave me your word. And he says, yeah, well, you can have me when I'm 80. But until then, So this is one of the times where Conan breaks his word. It's strange, though, because he's breaking his word to a gay cannibal vampire who doesn't even consider it a surprise that he's breaking his word. He doesn't even call him out on it, because who keeps their word in Africa? It was a long bet that Conan was going to give his word in the first place. And here's the other problem, is this was mentioned in the negotiations, was that this guy had to have Conan's word before he turned him into a vampire, because he couldn't risk giving such a powerful guy that kind of power. Which is redundant, but there it is. And so he's afraid that Conan as a vampire would fight against him, which Conan could do anyhow, but Conan doesn't want to be a vampire in the first place because he's Conan. He doesn't need to be a vampire. So this guy catches him, pulls him down. Now I've got you. Lifts him by his chains. Like, this guy's just got all the, advantages. Imagine if Xerxes was super strong and Leonidas couldn't fight him. I love these narrow panels too, since they're fighting on a cliffside. It's all vertical. It's pretty smart. It's clever. And now this is weird too. Conan sees the spear in his back. He jumps. He grabs the spear. The exposition doesn't match the jumping and the grabbing of the spear. But then when he grabs the spear and manages to throw him off so he lands on the spear. He could have driven the spear deeper in, through to the heart. Instead, this way it goes through the heart, and now we have the wood spear penetrating the heart, so the vampire is dead. Excuse me. But the vampire is still not dead, because in this one you have to decapitate them too. So we're getting all this violence, all this homoerotic gay innuendo, and then we get Conan has to come down and decapitate this vampire. Climbs down, has a conversation with the guys, but that's all we see. So again, the vertical panels have benefited John Buscema greatly, because if that had been a horizontal panel, how do you cover it up? And now the wife comes out and she's heartbroken that he turned his back on her, that she was just chattel to him. And so Conan reconciles with this dude for coming back for him, and he tells him that he can have Fidelia, which is the name of it was a good name. I'm not going to steal it, but it's a good name. I could use it for the Valkyrie, but I'm not going to. He tells him that he can have her as his wife, and in that way, and that he can be like a sub-chief. Conan doesn't want to be chieftain over these people. Conan's going back to Europe. And that is the end. And that is that. Knight of the Vampire. Bride of the Vampire, if you prefer. All right. Hey guys, I am John Carrick, and today's episode is brought to you by Legacy of a Mad Scientist and Legend of Ashley Fox, my awesome science fiction fantasy novels set in the future of Los Angeles. You've never read anything like it. I know that because there's not anything like it out there. There's nothing close. This is the most coolest shit. I am sitting on a fucking billionaire gold mine if I can just figure out how to get it to you guys. And I am going to figure out how to get it to you guys. So today, Conan, I think this is how we ended up with Jim Owsley, the editor, the assistant editor become writer. I think Conan in Africa, I think Roy Thomas phoned it in a little bit too much and probably pissed some people off with this issue. And someone said, why don't we let a black write Conan in Africa? And that was how he got his stupid shit where Conan slept with some monster woman. It's all ridiculous. This is not ridiculous. This is so cool. This is the best idea I've ever had. This comic. It's a better idea than these, which are fucking awesome. In this one, we get anti-gravity technology and mental computer interface, wireless interface to your mind with AI. In this one, you get a kung fu super ninja who rescues an entire orphanage of kids from a serial killer administration. That's fucking awesome. In this one, she gets promoted to an angel because she dies rescuing an infant. That's a fucking awesome story. I don't care who you are, you don't have anything this cool. You don't. I'm the only guy who has this right now. Nobody has anything close to it. This is the Eight of Cups. I didn't look at what it was. Oh, pirates. Dead pirates, though. I did take a photo of it, and I will put that up. And, well, there goes that. I read this, and I remembered it. This is a conflicted Nine of Hearts. In this one, Mindy, the leader of the homeowners administration for your little area, this is a scene right out of Walking Dead. When they get to, I don't remember what it was called, but there was an area where a woman was running it, and she was like the leader of the homeowners association. It's not going to happen, guys. There will be no women in charge at the end of the world. There's not. There will be warlords. You guys have no idea what the fuck is coming. Europe went through this already. Europe, the Dark Ages weren't really dark. The feudal ages were very feudal. City-states were constantly at war with each other while bands of mercenaries just wandered around starting fucking wars. That's what's coming. Every spring and summer was go looting for every guy between 15 and 50. Granted, that's obviously not true, but the 100 Years' War between England and France, Edward the Black Prince, they did some very serious summers of looting France. Just riding around through the countryside, avoiding his armies, staying 50 miles away, hitting every village, taking whatever they wanted. There was a lot of that. And granted, over time, the people had less and less and less to loot. Of course. It doesn't change the nature of the game. And if that comes, I'm not ready. No one's ready. No one's ready for that. Not even the gang members are ready for that. Not even the cartel leaders are ready for that. Because there won't be any money to move their product. In the end of the world, drugs become utterly worthless. As a matter of fact, drug dealers will probably, by the exact same guys running the cartels now, be hunted and murdered mercilessly. It will just become about arable land for farming. Because if we don't have diesel to run the combine crop harvesting, the farming apparatus, without fuel, we go back to doing it by hand. So let's hope and pray that doesn't happen. Let's hope and pray that the adults are back in the room, as they say. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. What do I have to talk about? What's going on with me? I got back on the skateboard for a little while today. Not very long. Working on some projects. I'm moving the computers around, getting ready to start re-recording again. I had to break down my whole setup yesterday because I thought the computer was dead and cart it into the other room, the recording studio room. So that's rearranging your place takes a little bit of work. But other than that, I'm happy. Things are going good. And I saw Gene Hackman died with his wife and his dog. And they said foul play was not suspected, but they're still investigating. He was 95, and she looked like she was about 50. Very attractive Asian woman. God damn if I'm not thinking that this guy went out with his wife and his dog. If he decided, I'm getting old, I'm dying, I don't want to go alone, and he talked her into man, that's fucked up. How many people do that? And we wouldn't know about it if he wasn't famous. I also saw that Michelle Trachtenberg passed away, and she's only 39. I remember when I first saw her on Buffy or something like that, I remember thinking she might actually be a good actress to play Ashley. She never really grew into the part, and obviously that never happened. So, but it's terrible. It's terrible. If you guys don't know who Angie O is, I'm really into Afrikaans music from South Africa. So Jack Parow. I found Die Antwoord first through, what was that movie? Section 9 or whatever. I wasn't too much into their music, but through them, I started getting recommends for Jack Parow, and he's really cool. And there are a bunch of rappers down there who are really cool. Biggie's good, Lofi, I think is his name, and Peach Van Pletzen is fucking awesome. He writes great music. He uses a little bit too much auto-tune, but whatever. I love discovering new music, what would you call it? Centers. Minneapolis is one. Minneapolis has got some great music coming out of it with Atmosphere and Prof. Prof and Peach Van Pletzen. But they're not who I want to talk about. This girl, Angie O. And she has a real name. That's not her real name. It's Abigail Geller, I think is her last name. Beautiful girl. Got cancer when she was like 22 or 23. And 23 and was dead a year later. And it's a heartbreaking story. She only got like 5 or 6 songs. She was set to like really blow up. Her songs are really cool. I will definitely, I'm drawing the shit out of her. I'm going to include her in my comics for sure. Just because fuck, can't forget her. She was too much. Kind of like Cinnamon Girl. It's too bad Neil Gaiman destroyed his own legacy, because Cinnamon Girl was beautiful and she was the model for Lady Death. And whoever drew that, I know I'm spacing on the name, David McLeany maybe? Whoever drew her as Lady Death really captured her essence. And it's amazing when you can see an artist do that. When you can see, now Ethan spent a lot of time charactering in a mall, and I think that did probably brought a ton of playfulness and energy to his work, because he already draws very realistic. And I know some artists had complained that editors were telling them to draw more realistic. I'm trying to remember who it was I heard say that the other day. But having spent time drawing real people doing caricatures in the mall is his own way of putting himself through a semi kind of art school. I spent a lot of time drawing people without them really noticing or thinking that they didn't notice, but I'm sure they did. But not like that, not doing it for money, not like putting, that's mad respect to the kid for that. Mad respect. I didn't have the chops for that, That's sales and entertaining someone while you're drawing and freaking out when you get it wrong. He was just a kid doing that. Man, hats off. So yeah, it's a shame that Gene Hackman passed away. It's hilarious that he took his wife and his fucking dog with him. That is goddamn hilarious. That's Viking like a motherfucker. Right? Boomer won't let go. Boomer won't let go of the Asian wife and the dog. That's peak fucking Boomer. I can't wait to start seeing the memes. It's not too soon. Fuck you. I'll make those jokes immediately. I haven't put any of them up yet, but I don't care. I'm not in a hurry to make fun of a dead guy. I am learning how to be funny, and recognizing the humor in this is enough. And I have you guys to come out here and rant too. So, all right, check out my audiobooks here at the end of this video, and our comic book is in the description along with a bunch of other awesome shit. See you guys tomorrow.